little lip gloss real quick.
We live. We're live. I love this. I love this. I am so excited about today. Let me tell you, y'all, welcome to the UnChamber August meeting. I am the queen of team doing too much, as usual. And I'm just so excited to be here today because we did not have to be here, right? And we are. And I'm excited because not only is this conversation with Courtney going to be exciting, and actually, conversation meaning her conversation with you, because I'm going to come off the screen, but not only is this conversation going to be insightful, interesting, engaging, and not use wimpy, weak ass words, as she would say, right? But it's also a coming home moment because it was in the midst of the pandemic last spring when Courtney and I were talking to each other, and she was consoling me, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I want to help people, but I don't know how, and our doors are locked. And I have this idea about this UnChamber. It's been kind of rolling around. And let me tell you, this woman created the membership site that has over 100 members on it to this day. She put together copy for me. She put together a landing page. She was like, we're going to do this. And she just ran with it. And that embodies the type of person that Courtney is as an individual, but also as a businesswoman, because she identified a way for me to address the need and then fill the gap for the pieces that I didn't know how to do, regardless of being mired down in sadness, right? So, Courtney, thank you so much for that and so many other things that you have helped me through, both business-wise and personally, over the 6-7 years we've known each other now, right?
Yeah, we go way back.
Way
Michelle,
back like four flats on the Cadillac.
That's right. And I thank you for those words. And I've shared this with you privately, but I believe that people pour into communities also need to be poured into. And I love our conversations, and I recognize that you really do have a gift for discerning and understanding the root cause and the root needs that people have, and then connecting them to the resources that can meet that need. So I'm really glad that I could be one of those resources today.
Thank you. I'm over here trying to put your ticker across the bottom because I was like, oh, yeah, didn't update that, did I? Don't have a list. Okay, so full transparency for those of you who don't know either of us, because I just damn sure started talking, right? My name is Michelle Talbert. I am the founder of the UnChamber and the Her Power Space, Her Power Movement. We're a co-working space, podcast studio, event venue located here in Broward County, but we are an international movement of amazing women who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, side hustlers, business venture owners, idea people, ideapreneurs, and intrapreneurs, right? And our community just continues to grow because more and more women are picking up additional sources of revenue. And we help them with the tools to both have community, which you're going to hear about today, and also to have the resources such as Courtney is going to be talking about today with regard to sales and marketing and making relationships. And so we launched, I guess, 6-7 years ago now, and the community has just continued to blossom and provide opportunities for women to get the information and the connections that we need. And part of that are these monthly that are open to all genders, because the guys are always like, what's for us? So the UnChamber is for the guys as well. And the UnChamber is an opportunity for every month on Wednesday, second Wednesday of every month, we bring in 2 amazing speakers, one at 1 p.m. Eastern and one at 6 p.m. Eastern, so that you can get tools, resources, and get the replays that you need. It is a monthly membership community, and we are just determined to ensure that we all have what we need so that we all win. Everybody knows that's my thing, right? We all win. And so Courtney today is going to be talking with us about sales copy. She is the master of sales copy, the mistress, I should say. And of course, I should have her bio right here because she's awesome. She is a marketing and communication strategist who helps Black entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers position their brands for more influence, impact, and revenue. Yes, we're going to talk profit today. She believes the best way to achieve that is through thought leadership, because the most successful and impactful brands have messages and missions that move people. I'm going to say that again. The most successful and impactful brands have messages and missions that move people. And she's going to talk to us about how to articulate that, right? She spent the last 15 years, even though she only looks like she's 17, developing brand messaging and communication strategies for thought leaders, major brands, Fortune 500 corporations, my little businesses, and well-respected nonprofit organizations. As the founder of Black Market Multimedia, yes, she's currently focused on building a media company that offers content to help Black entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers build wealth. Courtney holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communication, and let me tell you, this woman can articulate, communicate, and gesticulate, whatever else right? And English literature from Denison University, as well as a Master of Arts in Media Studies from the Pennsylvania State University. And I'll be putting across the bottom all the ways that you can connect with Courtney. Courtney is going to walk us through how to persuade. Of course, now I don't have the title in front of me, right? To communicate in a way that you can persuade and make profit. I remember those 2 P words, right? And that's the thing about copy. It was sticky enough that I remembered that it was to persuade and make profit. So without further ado, Courtney, do you have any further questions for me? Because I'm going to get myself off the screen and try to put myself together.
No questions. The only thing I'm going to do is start sharing my screen. So I'm also going to disappear off of the screen, but you're going to still hear me. And Michelle, if you could just put in the private chat, if you can see my screen, that would be great. So I can confirm that everybody can see what I put together today.
Absolutely. And please ask your questions in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat and being able to put questions up on the screen as we're going through. And then, of course, Courtney will do Q&A when she's finished with her presentation as well. So, Courtney, thank you so much. I just added your page to the screen, so we should all see it. Okay. And I'm going to remove myself.
All right, y'all. So I really appreciate you all joining us today. And, we're going to just jump right in it because I want to create some space for some questions, because I'm sure that things that I share today are going to spark some questions for you. But we're going to get into the 4 communication cheat codes to persuade and profit and get exactly what you want in your life and business. Now, before we get started, Michelle, let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? I'm going to look for a word in private chat. And once I have that confirmation, we're going to jump right in. All right. So I got the good word. We're going to go ahead and jump in. So I believe that the quality of our careers, relationships, and businesses all depend on how effectively we can communicate. All right. Now, a lot of people will agree to this idea in theory, but they find it hard to put it into practice, which is what often keeps them stagnant, invisible, and broke in business. And that's the last thing you want to be in business these days, especially, right? So my highest intention today is to empower you with the tools, tactics, and tips to elevate your communication so that you can attract exactly what you want, both personally and professionally. But before we dive in, here's what you can expect today. We're going to talk a little bit about my background and expertise and why I'm qualified to really teach this stuff. I like to kind of go a little bit deeper than my bio, and don't worry, it's going to be a 60-second introduction because I want to spend the rest of the time talking to you about what I like to call ethically persuasive communication. And we're going to define what that is and the benefits of honing the skill. And then we're going to jump into the cheat codes that I have for you, which are essentially the tools, tips, and tactics to elevate your communication so you can get more of what you want out of life and business. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Courtney Bowden. And as Michelle mentioned earlier, I'm a communications and media strategist. And my purpose is to catalyze and call forth leaders into their legacy work by helping them tap into their most powerful, potent, and purposeful message. I'm also the founder of Black Market Multimedia, which Michelle mentioned earlier. It's a company that exists to position Black entrepreneurs and changemakers as profitable thought leaders and global industry contenders by leveraging the power of media, storytelling, and communication. And I've spent the last 15 years mastering just one thing, and that is crafting messages that move people. And I want to share today how you can do the same thing. So first, let's define what I like to call ethically persuasive communication. I think that is important before we move forward. And ethically persuasive communication is an approach to imparting or exchanging messages in a way that treats the person or the people receiving the message with respect, understanding, care, and fairness. And since we're in the UnChamber, I know that Michelle is very intentional about cultivating healthy relationships. And I believe healthy relationships really thrive when communication is not just persuasive, but ethically persuasive, okay? Did you know that the average person utters about 16,000 words a day? We talk a lot. Even if you feel like you're an introvert, or even if you feel like you're an extrovert, you probably maybe speak more words than that a day. And here's a common myth. A lot of people think that communication is limited to only the words that we share with others. But the truth is, communication is an inside job first. And so you need to start asking yourself, what am I telling myself? You need to make sure that the words that you're choosing to speak and even think about yourself align with your personal values and your intentions. So I want you to ask yourself, what are some of my personal values? And can I honestly say that the majority of the words I speak, think, and tell myself align with my words and intentions? Because getting these two things down in the core of you is going to help you truly step into the kind of identity that allows you to speak up for yourself, to really command what you want, and cultivate healthy relationships, healthy professional and personal relationships with other people. So a lot of people have a hard time communicating, and they ultimately struggle to get what they want in life, career, relationships, and business, essentially every area of their lives, because they often speak unkindly to themselves. And now we're in a time where a lot of people feel like they are living in a world with fewer choices. But what you can choose is how to respond to things, especially those things that you can't control. So your response to what happens can either empower or disempower you. But either way, it's all up to you. And actually, much of our communication and word choices are unconscious. That means often we're on autopilot, and whatever you do unconsciously is habitual. So here's cheat code number one, and probably the most important. And I want you to, if you can, and I forgot to mention this earlier before we got started, if possible, I really recommend that you take out a pen, paper, take notes, or even a device that you can type on, because you do not want to miss these cheat codes. Cheat code number one is really about creating a healthier inner dialogue so that you can see your outer reality transform. And that happens by creating the habit of using more empowering language. Because the truth is, before you can persuade anyone else of anything, you have to believe in yourself first. And so when you get in the habit of using more empowering language consistently, you build up the trust muscle in the most important person, and that's yourself. So another reason why people have such a hard time communicating and ultimately struggle with getting what they want in their life or their business is because they aren't clear on or honest about the desired outcome from each interaction that they have. And so cheat code number two is all about getting real. In order for you to get what you want, what you really want, not what you think you can have, not what other people tell you you can have, but what you really, really want out of life and business, you've got to get real about what that is or what those things are. And if you're unsure of what those things are, you should ask yourself these three questions. What do I really want? And so when you're communicating with other people and you tell them what you want or what you need, understand it's important to weave in words and phrases that serve your intent. And so I really recommend, I'm all about processing. You know, it's interesting because people often expect me to just always have something to say. and oftentimes I'm not rendered speechless, but great communicators take a pause. They take a beat before they respond so they can create a more thoughtful response, a more effective response. So if you can't or won't make the time to pause and prepare, then don't have a conversation with someone else. If you cannot make the time to truly ask yourself these questions, then you might need to table a conversation until you can. So ask yourself, what do I really want? Why do I want it? And do I believe I can have it? And if you don't believe you can have it, you also need to interrogate that and ask yourself why or why not. Because the truth is, you can't clearly and confidently articulate your desires. If you can't clearly and confidently articulate your desires, they'll always elude you. Now, people often struggle. Another reason why people often struggle with communicating is because they don't know what to say or how to say it. And this is often what I hear. It's the number one challenge I hear from people who come to me to work with me as clients. And so I'm used to people saying, well, I just don't know what to say. It's not that you don't know what to say. It's that sometimes you might be going about saying it the wrong way, saying what you actually want to say the wrong way, or in an ineffective way, right? And so cheat code number 3 is all about being intentionally authentic and genuinely curious when you're communicating with others. So everything that you want is not just on the other side of fear, it's also on the other side of forging and cultivating a relationship with the right people who can give you access to what you want. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But whenever you're engaging in conversations with other people, be sure to be intentionally authentic and genuinely curious. And one way you can do this is by taking the position of a witness instead of a judge. I believe that every interpersonal conflict can be cured with clear communication. And oftentimes, misunderstandings all stem from miscommunication. So when you're communicating with others, take this position. Instead of the position of the judge, be a witness. And sometimes, when we're in conversation with other people and we're getting to know the people, we don't have bad intentions or we don't intend to come off judgmental, but some questions can be judgy. And even if you aren't aware of it, most questions that we do ask of others that start with why imply judgment. So questions like, well, why do you support that candidate? Can be perceived as judgy. Another question, why did you do or say X, Y, and Z? Can be taken as judgmental, even if that's not your intent. All right. And when people feel judged, they feel attacked. And when they feel attacked, they get defensive. And when they get defensive, they become almost impenetrable. Have you ever tried to talk to a brick wall? If so, how did that go for you? I can guarantee you nothing got through, right? So in order to elevate your communication, you should ask better questions of people. And you can do that in 3 ways. You can really focus on what, how, and tell me about these phrases. So for example, using starting with what, you can say, what would that candidate bring to our community? Instead of saying, well, why do you support that candidate, right? Give people the space to truly explain their position if they care to. The next way that you can preface a question in a more effective way to get the answers that you want is by prefacing it with how, the word how. So how do you see that candidate adding value is another great way of putting that question, of asking someone what could sometimes be an intrusive question. And finally, you can start with tell me about, right? So you can say, tell me about your views on digital entrepreneurship, right? Of course, as always, you want to give people the space to articulate their position so that you can listen and then you can respond. Because the truth is, if your intentions are pure, you can be unafraid of saying exactly what you need to say without, beating around the bush, without lying, without sucking up. And in order to do that, in order to really say what you need to say, you have to eliminate some wimpy words and phrases. And I find, and I was telling Michelle this in private conversation, that uh, people often don't get the attention, or they don't capture they don't capture the attention that they want from others, because they just are using wimpy words. A lot of people don't get what they want in life because their vocabulary is full of wimpy words. So these are some wimpy words and phrases to eliminate completely from your vocabulary in these contexts, right? I also want to be intentional about, incorporating the idea of context, because it's not always bad or wrong to use these phrases. It's just in the context of what I'm about to share. So the truth is, too many people are shooting on themselves, right? So you want to stay away from phrases like "I have to" or "I should." Have to frames whatever that comes behind it as obligatory or as a burden instead of a choice or even a privilege. So instead of saying something like "I have to wash the car today," you can say "I get to wash the car today." Remember when I was talking about incorporating more empowering words into your vocabulary, into your self-talk? This is one of the practical ways that you can do so that when you show up in front of other people, you can be confident and grounded in what you're communicating. The other phrase that you should eliminate is "I should." Should reinforces the negative and makes it difficult to break harmful cycles or even establish healthy habits. So I know we've all said this before, but it's like, oh man, I should be working out more. So instead of saying that, you can say, "I feel great when I move my body." Doesn't it just feel better, right? As opposed to, oh, "I should be working out more." Because should is beating yourself up. Or you can say, "I enjoy how I feel after a brisk walk." Okay. You want to affirm that positive. So those of us that have businesses and have teams and we're hiring people and we're sort of overseeing work, we often have to have some uncomfortable conversations. And, I'm sure for those of you who have had to work with team members, who have managed other people, might have thought in your mind or said this to someone: "You shouldn't be late," right? And that's relatively harmless. But if you want to get through to people, if you actually want that communication to be more penetrative and effective, you can say instead, "I want other people to know I value their time, so I'm making an effort to be on time. Will you do that as well?" Right? Or if you say something like, "I shouldn't be feeling this way." Again, that is reinforcing the negative. Perhaps say, "Okay, I'm feeling or thinking blank. I wonder why." And give yourself the space and the margin to investigate and interrogate why you're feeling what you're feeling. Another phrase to eliminate is "I am just." Okay, just in this context diminishes the value of what you have to offer. All right. So how many times have you said, "Well, I'm just a secretary," or "I'm just a blah, 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 blah," or "I'm just a small business owner," or "This is just a small business." Instead, you can say, for example, instead of saying "I'm just a secretary," you can say, "I am the administrative assistant who gets things done here. I'm the organizing force in this environment." Instead of saying, "Oh, well, I'm just a small business owner," you can say, "I own a premier emerging enterprise that is really helping solve the needs of people." Okay. You see how that's elevated? Another phrase that you should eliminate is "I'm sorry, but." Okay. A lot of us, especially women, tend to weaken our words and also weaken our position, our authority position, by apologizing for things we shouldn't be apologizing for, or being overly apologetic. So apologizing for what you're about to say undermines what will be said. So instead of saying "I'm sorry, but I don't agree," you can say, "If I'm honest, I disagree." Okay? Because you're not sorry that you disagree. You're just wanting to insert your perspective instead. Okay? You can also say, instead of saying, "Oh, can I please buy you?" "I'm sorry." Like, how many times have you wanted to get past someone in the grocery store or whatever? You just say, "I'm sorry." Instead of saying that, you can say, excuse me, I'd like to get by. How much better does that feel? And how much more empowered do you feel by that? So people often struggle with communication because they aren't in conversation with or in proximity to the people who can grant them access to what they want. So here's another cheat code for you. You want to find and build meaningful relationships with allies and advocates. All right. So I'm sure you've heard of the book that was written. I'm not exactly sure of the author. The name escapes me now, but How to Make Friends and Influence People. In order to do that, you need to ask yourself a few questions, like who has what I want or need? How can I get in front of them? What will I say when I get in front of them? Now, remember though, that relationships are reciprocal, and so is communication. It's never a one-way street. As Zig Ziglar once said, if you help people get what they want, you will get what you want. And so here's how you can go about getting what you want in conversations with others. Have sincere intentions, right? Like, come ready to not just receive, but give something of value. People feel better and more confident in making partnerships, deals, signing up to be your client if they know that you have sincere intentions. Another way you can start getting what you want in conversations with others more is being authentic. Be yourself, because anything else is an imitation. And we're living in a time where people are, especially our customers and our clients, are becoming way more savvy and way more discerning. And they can really, discern BS from a mile away. So be authentic. And also, along with that, cut to the chase. Oftentimes people are busy, they have other things going on. And if you're beating around the bush and, hemming and hawing with your words, people will tune you out. So, of course, in conversation, offer up pleasantries. Small talk is not always bad. I hate small talk, unnecessary small talk, but, small talk is natural. Then do that, but then cut to the chase. Get in there and get to the heart of why you want to have a why you want to have a conversation. Make sure that you do your due diligence. So anybody that you're talking to, make sure you understand who they are as much as you can and to the best of your ability, right? That means researching people. This is especially, I'm talking to those of you who are seeking investors or seeking, mentors or people who can offer you tangible support. Do your due diligence on these people, because people are not only flattered by the fact that you've taken the time to understand more of who they are before the conversation happens, but it also allows you to make the most of your time together when you do come together for conversation. You also want to make sure that you seek win-win solutions. Again, relationships are all about reciprocity and an equal exchange of value. So you always want to seek win-win solutions, because if you don't, then somebody in that exchange is going to feel taken advantage of. And the final thing is just to care. Care about what's going on with them. Care about the context. Care about their business. Care about things that are important to them, and express that, because you will go a long way in your communication when you do, to be quite honest. Now, another reason why people struggle often with communication is because they don't allow themselves to be highly supported. And so this is the final cheat code for you, the one that is probably the second most important after cheat code number one. And that is really partnering with a seasoned and effective expert to help you identify, clarify, and amplify your most purposeful and profitable message. And that's where I come in. And the best way for me to support you is by marketing and messaging diagnostic call. And so what this really is an opportunity for me to learn more about your business, your calling, and your vision in order to understand how I can potentially support you with positioning your brand for growth. And so what you'll do is just take a moment to answer a few questions beforehand, before scheduling, and we can get on the phone and I can hear the challenges that you're facing and also be able to offer up a diagnosis, if you will, to point you in the direction of the resource that you'll need and the next immediate step that you need to take. A lot of people come to me not knowing what to do next. And so this diagnostic call is going to allow you to have more clarity and to sort of have a roadmap for the next step that you need to take. And so you can schedule yours today by going to calendly.com/the Courtney Bowden /diagnostic call. And I'm sure that Michelle will make that available to you in the UnChamber community area. And you're going to save $30 simply because you were here today watching or participating in this UnChamber, but it expires on September 1st. So make sure that you go ahead and get on my calendar. This is a 60-minute call. This is the only way that you can speak to me one-on-one. This is the best way to speak to me one-on-one, as a matter of fact. And so go ahead and visit calendly.com/the Courtney Bowden /diagnostic call to really take advantage of your $30 savings before it expires on September 1st. Now, you will see on the calendar that there are dates that go into September. So what I'm saying is you can schedule into September and beyond, but your ability to schedule and save $30 on the normal price, which is $129, you'll save $30. So that means you're only investing $99 to have a conversation with me that will guide you to your next step. And the good thing is with this diagnostic call, should you decide to move forward with additional consulting or coaching around your marketing, your messaging, and your communication strategy, the fee for this call will be credited toward your total investment. So it's really, you win either way. So go ahead, visit calendly.com/the Courtney Bowden /diagnostic call and get on my calendar today because it's filling up. And I want to make sure that I create the space to listen to where you are, help you understand where you need to go next. And I'll be really excited and happy to do that, especially for those of you coming from the UnChamber. So that being said, any questions for me? I want to open up the floor for Q&A.
That was so good. Mercedes had some comments that I was putting up on the screen as you were talking. If you guys have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. You can give.
I'm here.
Right? You see it, right? That judgy thing. It's kind of like RBF, resting bitch face. There's like, people just think you're judging him, even though you're not. People think you're angry, even though this is just my face, right? So one of the things I want to go back to was taking it back to the beginning, the internal conversations we have, what do you really want? And I had to put this in quotes, not what you think you can have. And I think to start that inner work really is important. And I appreciate that you start there because a lot of people who talk about copy and a lot of people who talk about marketing and messaging do not start with what is it that you really desire, that you really want, not limited by what someone else has achieved or what someone else thinks that you could do. Right? Or things that you can do. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how that comes through in our marketing and sales copy specifically, and where we can kind of pinch ourselves or pop that rubber band to stop ourselves from using that kind of approach?
Well, Michelle, that's a really great question. I'm glad that we're digging into it a little bit more. I believe that you cannot outperform your identity, your subconscious identity. And our subconsciousness really controls about 95% of all of our actions. As I mentioned before, even our communication is sometimes unconscious, right? And anytime you're on autopilot, that's habitual. So you want to start with your identity. Who do you see yourself as first? Because if you do not see yourself as a successful business owner, if you do not see yourself as someone who can sustain a profitable business, then you will always undermine your efforts through the things like communication, through the words that come out of your mouth, through how you show up to spaces. Which is why oftentimes people feel like, man, I just feel like I'm not attracting what I want. You know, when you are not empowering yourself with the right words, you demagnetize yourself. And what is a demagnetized thing? You can't even pick up a feather. But when you speak to yourself kindly, and when you start to really get intentional about that internal dialogue, you become, that magnet gets stronger, and that attraction gets stronger. And that means that opportunities come, partnerships come, clients come, not because you're working harder necessarily, but because you have now stepped into and embodied the identity of a person who actually believes who believes that you are capable of running a business, of getting to the next level in your career, of doing whatever it is that you want to do.
Exactly. I mean, even words like side hustle, right? Or day job. Recently, my co-working coach, right? So my business pays for itself, but I still got to get paid, right? So I have a quote unquote day job. And I also have a co-working coach, right? A very specifically focused person who I pay to help me make this space successful. And that was about intention as well, not just getting a coach or a business coach, getting a co-working space coach, right? Who's
right.
And she said, Michelle, maybe you need to stop using that day job language, right? Because I'll be sitting in here working on the legal stuff that I do so that I can pay my, my rent and eat. But I call that my day job, but I'm sitting in here all day. So there's a bit of a disconnect. And that shift actually occurred. I stopped referring to that as my day job, right? I don't have nomenclature for it, which probably is a good thing too, right? I almost don't name it because it doesn't matter as much as being in the space and generating the income that is derived from the space that will hopefully, intentionally expand. Another thing that you mentioned is about ethics. Oh, go ahead.
And before you move on, I want to jump in and I want to remind you of something, Michelle. Remember when we were at that conference and we got a chance to see Lisa Nichols in the hallway?
I still have
Guess
it.
what she said?
Yes.
Remember what she said? Your day job, you can consider that as your first investor. Exactly. So you said you don't have nomenclature for what that role is. That's your first investor.
My first investor.
That's one of your investors.
Yes, it's my primary investor. That's right. And I share that from time to time, especially on Mondays. So Mercedes, I want to go back. Mercedes was saying that she was taught to be passive, right, in her speech, so that she didn't look aggressive, because women are looked at as aggressive. We're labeled as aggressive when we're direct, not assertive. So how do we do that? How do we kind of walk that tightrope in our copywriting as women when we're trying to be forceful, right? Because it's like buy now, very direct, forward moving language, but quote unquote, we're still a woman. So how do you advise your clients in ensuring that their voice lands impactfully?
Mm-hmm. It goes back to that identity piece. And along with understanding who you are and stepping into the identity of the person who gets these things done, it's also very important to care less about how you're being perceived. And as women, we are often perceived, right? And we don't want to be perceived as aggressive. We don't want to be perceived as assertive. But I always ask myself this question: am I going to let other people's perceptions of me keep me from achieving my goals, achieving my highest desires, getting what I actually want? And if you can drop that fear of being negatively perceived, you free yourself up to show up powerfully. Not saying it's arrogant, not saying that it's rude, because there's a difference between being assertive and being forceful and being rude. You don't have to do any of those things. You can still remain in your feminine, if you will, feminine energy, but say what you need to say, stay 10 toes down on it, and be grounded in your convictions. And that'll come through.
So do you feel, Michelle said, learning how not to care about other people's opinions is a success principle? Yes, Michelle,
Yes.
It really is. It really, Michelle Power. Okay, so I have to do that all the time. People are so annoyed with me, but I mean, Michelle's, it is what it is. But in terms of if you are talking to your primary customer, are we to then say your vibe attracts your tribe kind of thing? So I'm not going to worry about who I think my ultimate customer is perceiving that language, right?
Yes. And here's the thing too. Marketing, a lot of people have this misconception about marketing. Marketing is not only about attraction. Marketing is also about repelling. Okay.
Thank you.
And so
say that again. Run that back. That's important.
Marketing is not limited only to attracting people. It's also repelling the wrong people, the people that you don't want to work with, the people that you don't want to partner with, the people that you don't want even to engage with, even on social media. Okay. And so the most successful brands make people choose. I will not say polarize, right? Because you don't necessarily have to go to that extreme. But the most successful brands that move people, they inspire people to make a choice about them. Yeah. Whether that is to buy or to not, right? Yeah. Or to, you're not everybody's cup of tea. That's okay. You can be an acquired taste.
Yes. And I love that you said that, because so frequently we chase the coins, right? We're like, that's that coming from that place of lack. Like, I have to close this customer. There's no other customer on the planet that I'll be able to close. And to say that marketing is about repelling is so beautiful, because that ties right back to how you ended up on here today by talking about weak, wimpy words. Because when we're afraid that we're going to turn people off, we water down our messaging. Do you find that happens a lot, right? We tend to hedge our verbiage so that we can cast a broader net, right? And I have people who are literally millionaires, literally doing very well in their niche, and I might mention their name to someone, and they're like, I've never heard of that person. And I think there's something about us where we think we have to be Beyonce level or Michael Jackson level recognition to be able to be successful. But if we go deep with our tribe, right, and Seth Godin talks about that, your initial 1,000, and then, you continue to grow from there. But stand firm with your verbiage and your messaging, making that clear.
And here's the thing too, Michelle. We are living in a time where people, our ideal customers and clients, are making their buying decisions based off of their values. And that's why I mentioned values in one of the initial cheat codes, is because once you're clear on your values and you build your company around those things, you also build your messaging and your marketing content around those things too. And so if you are clear on your values, grounded in them, right, and it is injected into every piece of your marketing content, you don't have to feel guilty or ashamed or shy to say what you have to say, because ultimately what you've just said, even if it offends other people or triggers other people, you can ultimately tie what you said back to your company value.
I love that.
And people respect that.
And that's what I was just going to say, because I've actually heard, I heard a speaker say once that if you go too broad, you end up putting yourself in a prison. You actually box yourself in. And an example that I've seen play out of that are people who have a certain type of branding where maybe they feel that it's based in spirituality or something of that nature. And we'll go out to eat, and they're always like sticking a wine glass behind me, and people can't see me with a wine glass in front of me, so I'll be sitting there with two because I don't care. Right? I'll be like, give me a glass, right?
Right.
it's sort of, you're trying to ensure that you speak to spiritual people and they can't see you drink a glass of wine with dinner because they may judge you. You're now putting yourself in a prison and not even being authentic. What if they walk past us in the restaurant and they see the glass on the table, right?
Right.
So to create this persona versus saying, who am I at my core? What is it that I really want? Not what do I believe I can have? And what is it that is possible to, what does that say? Oh yes, thank you, Mercedes. This is $20 a month. I'm letting this run. Actually, Mercedes made a good point just now, right? Thank you for saying that, and I will share it. My Cash App is $Shell Hustles, and I will split that with Courtney happily. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for that, Mercedes. But just to finish out this thought is that the way in which that we make bonds strong and community strong is by showing up authentically. And you just posted something that I looked at while you were talking, and it's this gorgeous picture of you, and you're like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not trying to be, right? And if we can stand in that truth, we will attract those others into our orbit as well. And they will purchase from you. They will share us with their like-minded friends as well. And so we will become successful by stepping to our authenticity. Another thing you said that I absolutely love is about the word choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I've posted up before about, do we not say coins anymore? Because that's the jingling versus the dollars. That's right? Right, the whole thing. And I want you to talk about your answer to that, because I thought your answer was right on point. But I have also heard coaches say, do not put in our marketing that we are offering something for free. Say it is complimentary. So how much should we be parsing word choice when we get to that level? Or is it more so about the intentionality of the words?
I think it's more about the intentionality of the words. And we can even go deeper than intentionality and talk about energy. What energy do you bring to the word, right? Because you can look at a thesaurus and find another word for free or find a synonym for free. But if you still have a free mentality, if you still have, that energy behind it, it doesn't matter whether you say complimentary or, whether you upgrade it. So that's why I say intention overrides the actual kind of words that you say in certain contexts. Now, I'm very precise with my language because I believe that words have power, and it is my area of mastery. And I recognize not everybody even wants to be at that level of mastery. And you don't always want to feel like you're tripping up over your words. But when this goes back to cheat code number 1. When you embody the identity of the person that gets things done, that builds a sustainable and profitable business, then everything coming out of you, your language, your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, your behaviors, is going to line up with that. Sure, there are going to be some missteps, some mistakes, and even some contradictions. But for the most part, you're going to be batting 1,000. And you're going to be doing just fine, whether you use the word coin, dollar, check, euro, peso, or what.
I love that. So as we begin to wrap up, Latoya, thank you, Mercedes. I will be splitting that with Courtney as soon as we get off this call. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mercedes.
And that's sort of that attraction, right? They're amazing women. Mercedes and I met years ago in a group that had nothing to do with business, right? It was a personal group. We met years and years ago. And it's just so awesome, and have met in person since. That's the other thing I love, right? Is that when you are authentically showing up on social media and then people meet you in person and you're still that same person, it's a blessing.
That's exactly.
And it matters so much.
It matters.
What do you think is the best way to garner people's attention using email marketing Do you have thoughts about some power words? Maybe just a couple of cheat codes. I'm going to ask for a little extra, a couple of cheat codes for really impactful subject lines for email. And I know that's super broad, so just pick your favorites. I made it broad on purpose so you could go wherever you wanted to go with this. But I think a lot of people feel like, I don't know what to say even in a subject line.
Yeah. Yeah. And subject lines are, one of the most important things in email marketing, because if the subject line doesn't grab your attention, then the email is not going to get opened. And so it doesn't matter how much time you spent really crafting the perfect email copy or content. If it doesn't get opened, it doesn't matter, right? So some of my favorite phrases, one of which is special delivery. Now, this is really good for product-based businesses. Special delivery, right? Because guess what we all love? We all love a good shipping confirmation, right?
My favorite 3 words. Your order has shipped, or that's 4.
Right. And you can put that phrase in all capitalized letters, and then maybe add a little bit more context, or a few more words to give people an idea of what is being delivered. So that's just a one example of
that's a good
that
one
you can use.
That's a great one right there. And you see Miss Latoya Bird, who I'll mention her in a second, said this is soul stirring, powerful, and nothing less than divine. Looking forward to her session with Courtney. Yes. And actually, speaking of Miss Latoya Bird, she will be presenting back here on live tonight. We're continuing talking about sales. And if this woman is not a closer, no one is. I have never met such a sales closer in my life. And she is just so focused and driven, but in a way that pulls you in and helps you with storytelling face to face, right? And so it's awesome because Courtney helps us with our messaging in print, and then incorporating that into the energy we bring to the conversation. And then now Latoya is going to talk to us at 6 p.m. tonight about, okay, now we're going to close it, right? We gave them all the words. Now it's time for the ask. And that's really important, that call to action. And I know that you're also amazing at calls to action as well, Courtney. So as we kind of close out, is there anything that you see that's sort of a recurring success, a recurring positive factor, especially among women, Black women, women of color, that we tend to maybe undervalue in ourselves in the way that we communicate? Is there something you could point to that's like, yeah, girl, keep doing that and do more of it?
I say that Black women are magic, right? And we make everything better. Women are magic. Period. Women of color are magic. And I think that if you can incorporate nods to your culture, you're going to really find your tribe. You're going to find people not just who share your culture, but who appreciate your culture and who may sit outside of it as well. You see what I'm saying? And so don't be afraid to incorporate some slang words. Don't be afraid to mix sort of the high and the low. I'll use a good y'all in a call to action in a minute if I know that who I'm talking to is going to respond positively to that. That is what helps you cut through the noise, not being prim and proper and, with these $5 words. I have a master's degree. I can speak the King's English to the Queen's taste, but that's not always what's required to get through.
Right. And, this goes back to that perception, right? That issue of being perceived by others, because we've seen this ourselves when people outside of our culture co-opt our culture, also known as Columbus our culture. And they're hip hop dancing and throwing certain words around. And we're actually afraid to use that language for fear that someone thinks that's the quote unquote only way we know how to communicate.
That's right.
I love that we are embracing our authenticity, because I'll send an email and be like, girl, and that's my broadcast email, like, girl, you need to be in this meeting, right? And some guys, I don't even care because this is how I
Right.
talk. Y'all.
Exactly.
And there is a comfort to that. There is a comfort to knowing this feels like home, right?
Yes.
Whatever that looks like to you. For me, I think very much in terms of spaces physically as well as on social media, and creating safe places for us to communicate and to be free to communicate freely. As
That's right.
we need to communicate. And that only happens when we can kind of let that guard down and share authentically. And that comes through in your copy as well. So I love that you say embrace who we are, whoever that is. You might not say y'all, and you could be just as black as me, but you don't say, and that's totally fine. Don't say it. Right.
Right.
Don't push away from that contextual nature of where you're from and how you grew up and what connects you, and that connective sinew, tissue that connects us, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So what I want to do is just share one more time your thank you, Mercedes, for sharing out. She's like, for the new people in the room, it's herpowerspace.com. Thank you, Mercedes. You guys can schedule your marketing and communications diagnostic consult. Courtney is giving a 30% discount that expires September 1st. It is only for our tribe, our community. And you can go to calendly.com/the Courtney Bowden/diagnostic call. And I will also put that in the comments below every place where I have shared this live, so you can click on it easily as well. Courtney is an amazing copywriter. Courtney was the first person who was my quote unquote tech person for the first webinar that I ever did. And it was insane. It was a mess. And it was a beautiful mess because we had each other. Courtney and I really have grown up together. And that's why it's so important to connect with your peers. I think we embody what it means to, have community and be in the trenches together, and to look at Mercedes. Oh, she on it. She's like, all right, go to Instagram, the Courtney Bowden.
Thank you, Mercedes.
Michelle, like keeping up with the banners. Let me help y'all. I love it. But, to embody that when you show up for each other, and that can turn around and come back around and come back around, and provide opportunities to make money together, provide opportunities to introduce one another to other opportunities and people.
That's right.
And that is exactly what the UnChamber is all about. So to have you here, I remember vividly sitting on my couch last year crying on the phone with you, and you just running with it. And the next thing I knew, I had copy and URLs and everything else. And I just adore you. You embody we all win, and you are my baby sister. You know that. My baby sister gonna yell at me, but you're my baby sister too. And I just adore you, and thank you for being here. And I know people felt your authenticity, and they know, yes, thank you, Mercedes, and they know that you are available to them to help them forge those exact same types of connections with their potential customers and clients. So y'all, please reach out to Courtney, and I'll drop the links below, and feel free to drop your questions even if you're watching in a replay, because I do get the alerts, and I will get those questions over to Courtney, and we can get some answers back to you as well. This is the UnChamber. We come together to commit. I don't even know what we come together to do. I'm just so emotional right now. We come together so that we can ensure that you have the resources you need to be successful. Join us again tonight. I will be going live. I've posted it again with, as I said, Miss Latoya Bird, and she will be talking to us, and the title of her talk is Relax, Relate, Receive. Okay, we are talking about sales tonight. Thank you again, Courtney. Thank you all for being here. Mercedes blew up the chat. I love it, love it, love it. You can join the UnChamber at the unchambercommunity.com. It is a $20 a month investment. Today, I decided to let this whole conversation go for free, but that is not what we typically do. This is saved to our premium community members, and we would love to have you in the community. And I will see you again at 6 p.m. We're going live again with Miss Latoya Bird, who's going to have her face did. That's why she didn't come on today. I told it.
Come on.
All right. Thank you, guys. I love you all. Court, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Looking forward to working with all of you. Bye.